In a world full of noise, opinions, and distractions, it's easy to get caught up seeking validation from others. But the truth is harsh and simple. Nobody cares. Your struggles, excuses, and setbacks won't matter to the world. What matters is what you do next. This speech is your wake-up call to stop complaining, stop waiting for sympathy, and start working hard. This is about discipline, not motivation. It's time to focus on you, stay consistent, and prove your worth through actions. Success doesn't beg for attention. It demands effort. Let's begin. Your future is waiting. We live in a world where people are more connected than ever, yet more distracted than ever. We share our problems hoping someone will fix them. We post our pain, hoping someone will understand it. But let me be honest with you, nobody cares, and that's not a bad thing. See, the truth is, most people are too focused on their own lives to be deeply invested in yours. Your struggles might earn you sympathy, but sympathy doesn't build success. Pity doesn't build progress. What builds those things? You, your work, your choices, your mindset. The ones who win in life aren't the loudest or the most visible. They're the most disciplined, the most focused, and the most resilient. They're not waiting for applause. They're not counting likes. They're too busy doing the work. We often carry the weight of other people's opinions on our shoulders, as if the world has its eyes glued to us, watching our every move, waiting to judge, waiting to criticize. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people aren't paying attention to you. They're too busy dealing with their own lives, their own insecurities, their own problems. The world isn't watching you as closely as you think. And once you internalize that, something powerful begins to shift inside you. We live under a constant illusion of performance. Social media reinforces this. You have to post something, and for a moment it feels like the world is looking. But that moment is fleeting. People scroll, people move on, and so should you. Nobody's thinking about your mistakes for as long as you are. Nobody's dissecting your failures with the intensity that you are. You're not the main character in their story. You're barely a side note. And that's not meant to discourage you. In fact, it's liberating. Because if no one is truly watching, you're free to fall. You're free to learn. You're free to learn. You're free to try things, to be messy, to be bold, and to rebuild. The spotlight you think is on you, it's mostly imagined. We build it in our minds out of fear of embarrassment, of judgment, of not measuring up. But most people are not critics. They're just like you, trying to figure out their own next move. When you realize that the world isn't holding you to impossible standards, you stop trying to meet them. You stop performing, and you start improving. And you start improving. You stop hesitating because you're no longer frozen by the idea of what people might think. You become more focused on what you think, on what you want, and on what you need to grow. That shift is everything. It's the start of ownership, and ownership is where transformation begins. So you don't need to explain every step of your journey to anyone. You don't need to justify your process, your timing, or your setbacks. You don't need to make it all look perfect. Nobody really cares if you take a wrong turn. They care if you keep going. They care if you build something real, eventually. And when you do, they'll act like they were watching all along. But they weren't. Not really. You were the one who stayed up late. You were the one who kept going when it got hard. You were the one who didn't give up when it was lonely. So give yourself the freedom to stumble. Give yourself the room to grow. You're not being judged nearly as harshly as you imagine. And if you are, it says more about them than it does about you. Use that space to become the person you're capable of being. Because in the quiet, away from the imagined spotlight, real growth happens. In a world full of shortcuts, hacks, and instant gratification, we've come to believe that success can be packaged and delivered. That with the right connection, the right moment, or the right appearance, we can bypass the grind. But the truth is this: all of it fades. Looks, luck, charm, even talent. If it's not backed by hard work is the only sustainable currency. It's the only thing that keeps paying dividends when everything else stops working. Talent might open the door, but hard work is what keeps you in the room. You might impress someone once with your words or your confidence, but over time, the question becomes, can you deliver? Can you show up consistently even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when no one is cheering you on? That's where the difference is made. Not in the highlights, but in the hidden reps that no one sees. Hard work is honest. It doesn't pretend. It doesn't posture. It doesn't ask for applause. It doesn't ask for applause. It's quiet, repetitive, sometimes thankless, but always foundational. It builds resilience, focus, and credibility. And in a world where attention is cheap and performance is often faked, hard work still carries weight. It still matters. Because when things go wrong, and they will, it's not your charm that pulls you through, it's your habits, it's your discipline, it's your work ethic. People often chase outcomes without respecting the process. They want the reward, not the routine. But you can't harvest what you didn't plant. You can't expect lasting results without building the muscle behind it. Hard work might not bring overnight fame, but it builds a foundation you can actually stand on, one that won't collapse under pressure. It makes you someone who can be trusted, someone who can be counted on, someone who isn't just impressive once, but consistently valuable. You don't need to announce your effort. You don't need to make it look glamorous, because real work rarely is. It's early mornings, late nights, sacrifices, self-doubt, and showing up anyway. And that's what separates those who last from those who fade. Those who put in the work aren't afraid of the slow build, because they know something deeper is happening beneath the surface. They're not chasing attention, they're building mastery. And when everything else changes, the market, the trends, the opportunities, your work ethic doesn't. That's why it's a currency. It holds its value. It gains interest over time. It builds trust. It builds character. It builds a future. It builds a future. No one can take it from you. No one can fake it for you. And once you've earned it, it travels with you. From job to job, from project to project, from season to season. In the end, it's not the smartest, the luckiest, or even the most talented who thrive. It's the ones who do the work. Every day. Especially when they don't feel like it. In a world addicted to noise, silence can feel uncomfortable. We're taught to speak up, to promote ourselves, to constantly share our progress as if growth needs an audience to be real. But silence is not weakness. It's not absence. Silence is presence. Silence is presence. It's power. It's where real strength is built, slowly, quietly, away from the spotlight. When you're silent, you're not wasting energy trying to prove yourself. You're investing that energy into becoming better. It's in the silence that you learn to listen, not just to others, but to yourself, your thoughts, your doubts, your instincts. In the quiet, the truth has a chance to surface. You can't fake who you are in silence. That's why it builds strength, because it forces you to face what's real and to grow from there. Not everyone needs to hear your every move. You don't have to explain your path, your hustle, or your healing. You don't need to document every step of the climb. What matters is that you're climbing. What matters is that you're climbing. Some of the most successful, grounded people you'll ever meet didn't get there by seeking applause. They got there by doing what was right, even when no one noticed. They didn't build to impress others. They built to align with their own values. And that alignment gave them consistency, clarity, and purpose. That's what you need to build for yourself. You don't need people to clap every time you take a step forward. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just need to show up for yourself, consistently, honestly, and fully. That's where real confidence begins. Not in the echo of someone else's approval, but in the quiet conviction that you're doing what matters, even if no one is watching. When you stop seeking validation, you become more fearless. You're no longer waiting for permission to speak, to try, to fail, or to grow. You start trusting your own voice. You begin moving from internal motivation, not external noise. And the irony is, once you stop needing validation, people start noticing you more. Not because you're shouting louder, but because you're moving with certainty. Validation doesn't equal truth. Proof of you understands you, and not everyone who criticizes you is right. You have to learn to filter opinions through your values. You have to decide who actually gets a say in your life, and most of the time, that list should be very short. Stop waiting for people to recognize your worth. Start showing it through the way you carry yourself, the work you do, and the standards you keep. The only validation that lasts is the one that comes from within. When you look in the mirror and know you're walking your own path on your own terms, there's a strength that comes from knowing you can depend on yourself. It's not arrogance. It's not isolation. It's clarity. It's clarity. It's the quiet confidence that says, even if no one shows up for me, I'll still keep going. That's what self-reliance is. Not doing everything alone, but knowing that when things fall apart, you won't. You'll stand. You'll adjust. You'll adjust. You'll find a way forward. Not because it's easy, but because you've learned to trust your own resilience. We're taught to lean on others, and connection is important. But there's a difference between support and dependence. When you depend too heavily on people to motivate you, fix you, or carry your weight, you weaken your own ability to do it yourself. And eventually, the day comes when no one else is available. No encouragement, no help, no hand to hold. Just you. In that moment, who are you? That's where self-reliance matters. Self-reliance means taking full ownership of your life. Your actions, your attitude, your outcomes. It's understanding that no one is coming to save you. And oddly enough, that realization doesn't create despair. It creates freedom. Because if no one else is responsible, then you are. And if you're responsible, you're also capable. You can shift things. You can build, adjust, learn, and rise. You stop waiting. You stop blaming. You stop wishing things were different. Instead, you act. You create. You adapt. That's power. Not control over others, but control over yourself, your choices, your direction. You stop being a passenger in your own life and become the one behind the wheel. And here's the thing. Self-reliance doesn't mean you never ask for help. It means you're not helpless without it. TPs are not helpless without it. It means you seek support from a place of strength, not from dependence. You know how to carry yourself, but you're also wise enough to know when collaboration adds value. That's a mature kind of strength, the kind that doesn't need constant reassurance to move forward. The world responds to people who take initiative, the people who show up first, the ones who do the work without being asked, the ones who don't need to be told what to do because they've already decided to take responsibility. That's the kind of energy that earns respect, not through force but through consistency. Self-reliance is developed in small moments. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you finish what you started, every time you get back up after falling, you're building it. You're building it. And over time, it becomes part of you. You stop panicking when things get tough because you faced tough before. You've solved problems before. You know what you're capable of because you've proven it to yourself. That's real power. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady, grounded, and earned. Self-reliance doesn't just change how you live, it changes how you see yourself. And that changes everything we often admire success from the outside. We see the award, the title, the applause, and we assume that's what success looks like. But the truth is, by the time the world notices, the work has already been done. Long before the recognition, there were early mornings, late nights, quiet failures, and relentless effort. Success isn't something you stumble into. It's something you build, piece by piece, when no one's watching. It's earned in private, and only later does it get recognized in public. Behind every achievement is a process that's invisible to most people. It's made up of habits, routines, sacrifices, and self-discipline. There are days when motivation is low, but the work still gets done. There are moments of doubt, frustration, even isolation, but none of that makes it to the highlight reel. People applaud results, but very few are aware of what it took to get there. That's why it's so important to focus on the private part, because that's where the foundation is built. You don't need to prove anything to anyone while you're still building. The real work happens when there's no audience, when there's no validation, and when the outcome is still uncertain. That's where your character is tested. That's where your commitment is revealed. If you only work when people are watching, you're not building success. You're building performance, and performance fades. Success, the kind that lasts, is rooted in the effort you put in when no one sees or praises you. There's a discipline in working quietly. It takes humility to keep going without recognition. It takes strength to grind without applause. But that's exactly what makes the success meaningful when it finally arrives. Because when the spotlight eventually turns your way, and it will if you stay consistent, you won't feel like an imposter. You'll know you earned it. You'll know what it cost. You'll know the effort behind the moment. And the world will celebrate the result, not knowing the countless private decisions that made it possible. The ones you made when it would have been easier to quit, to delay, to distract yourself. But you didn't. You stayed the course. That's what separates the ones who merely want success from the ones who actually build it. When people say, "You're lucky," they're seeing the outcome. They're not seeing the lonely mornings, the missed parties, the quiet sacrifices. They're not supposed to. They're not supposed to. That part is yours. That part is sacred. That part is where you became who you are. Success isn't a surprise to the people who earn it. It's confirmation. It's the public moment that reflects the private journey. So don't rush the recognition. Focus on the work. Focus on becoming someone who deserves it. Because when it's real, when it's built the right way, success won't just look good. It will mean something. So if no one sees your effort right now, keep going. If no one claps, keep going. If it feels slow, keep going. Because one day, when the lights finally turn your way, and people start to notice your success, you'll stand there not surprised, not lucky, not overwhelmed, but steady. Because you'll know the truth. You didn't just arrive. You built this. And you did it in the quiet, where real success is always earned. So as the world rushes to be seen, choose instead to do the work, stay consistent, stay committed. You don't need an audience to become great. You need discipline when no one's watching. Let others chase applause while you chase progress. Because the day will come when your effort speaks louder than any words. And when recognition finally finds you, it won't be a surprise. It'll be a reflection of everything you've built in silence. Earn your success privately. Own it humbly. And let your journey speak louder than your need to be noticed.